Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 18 years of profiling IT mission programs in the federal government. This is our third annual Profiles in Excellence Chief Data Officer program, which will be coming to you from the virtual studios of WTOP and the Federal News Network. I'm Luke McCormack, and during today's show, we will discuss big data analytics and artificial intelligence trends and strategies at numerous government agencies and hear from the key leaders making them happen. With me on today's show are Eileen Verdreen, Chief Data and AI Officer, Department of the Air Force; Beth Puchek, Chief Data Officer, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service; Caroline Kaharski, Chief Data Officer, Defense Information Systems Agency; Nick Saki, Principal Technologist, U.S. Federal Pure Storage; Dr. Erica Reuter, Senior Sales Engineer Manager, U.S. Public Sector, Alteryx; and Bill Sullivan, Vice President and General Manager, Denodo Federal. Well, I always used to say that the bad actors and state sponsors are not coming in to look how impressive our networks are. They're coming in to get the data. It's all about the data, and there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of activity going on. Eileen, we're going to start with you first. I just can't imagine the level of responsibility you have with these combined elements and all the data in the satellites, the ground forces, embedded systems, et cetera. Give us the state of where you are at the Department of Air Force.
Well, I always begin by saying it's an honor to serve in this role, to really lead this group of airmen and guardians. But we've been really focusing this year on publishing a roadmap for AI readiness for 2025. And we just launched that just a couple weeks ago at our cyberspace symposium. And here we've identified our key capabilities to move forward to meet those goals. And it includes areas of that such as responsible AI, workforce, and emerging tech. But when we look at our investments in our portfolio, we're always looking at how to optimize performance, how to work harder. And I think everybody here is looking at Gen AI and large language model capabilities. But when we look at those capabilities, we're looking at how do we use them to support our warfighter for mission impact. So we're looking at what I call data to decision, looking at that decision velocity. So in the last year plus, we've invested significantly in building our Department of the Air Force data fabric to build pipelines to support that data to decision capability. It's really about seamless integration across our two services, as well as to our other sister services and to our coalition partners.
I love the idea of the concept of data to decision. That gets right to the point. Beth, I know that you all have a data strategy out there. You've got domain-driven design that you're working with, and you got a lot of policy and direction coming from the White House, from the left, from the right, all kinds of different activities going on. Give us the state of where you're at right now.
Sure. Well, as you know, Luke, USCIS really is a data agency. It is the core enabler to everything that we do, and decisions is the core to delivering immigration benefits. So big data has always been core to what we do. And these cloud-based technologies have really made it easier for us to harness all of the data that we have. And analytics has really always been critical to our work too. We've always forecasted how much work we're going to have in a year and looked for patterns in immigration trends and so much more. And just like every partner here on the phone, AI and machine learning are really hot topics, and at USCIS, it's no different. And just like Eileen said, decision velocity is really what it's all about. How can we help our adjudicators and mission support staff optimize their efficiency and get to that decision faster so that we can deliver benefits faster? We're really excited about the possibilities that the more sophisticated technologies like large language models offer. We're going to start small. We want to figure out what the right use cases are and govern those appropriately. We have some great use cases in sight that are low risk that will give us the opportunity to test out how these will work in our environment.
Super exciting, particularly noting that there's this tectonic shift in that technology, and very important mission you have there. So hats off to all of you. Caroline, we once looked at DISA as a sort of a pliers and wires agencies, not anymore. They have arrived on the scene, and a very sophisticated environment you're managing there. Tell us about it.
Absolutely, thank you. We have definitely made the shift from being very infrastructure network centric mindset to a gravitating to a data centric mindset, as you stated, that the data is really the asset that our adversaries are looking at harvesting to find our weaknesses and where they would be able to exploit us within that infrastructure. What we're really looking at is building a data mesh that will allow our leaders to make actionable decisions, whether it's in the battlefield or in the boardroom. So we are expanding data access in areas that may not have readily available access, depending on what type of real world situation we are in. We are investing in different data tools and principles so that we elevate our data maturity. So we're able to really sift through the noise and do that threat analysis within the data so we can see what exactly is going on within our network so that we are providing that stellar service to our mission partners. But it's also really crafting and investing in the workforce of providing that retainment, recruitment, and training needed so that the DISA workforce is always staying abreast on the most sophisticated and real-time data needs within the department.
Fascinating and exciting, and hats off to all that you're doing there to help all the services. Nick, we've said it before, it's worth repeating. Pure storage is it's way beyond storage, as we know, and you all have arrived on the scene and are really helping unlock these capabilities for these various departments and agencies. Give us a status to where things are today.
Oh, thank you, Luke. And I echo Eileen's sentiments. It's an honor to be here, and definitely an honor to be speaking with these amazing government executives. The data explosion that everybody predicted about a decade ago is really upon us. We are awash in a tidal wave of data. From the perspective of human cognition and the velocity and latency of decision making, that obviously poses some serious challenges. We've instrumented the world, and now we've got a ton of data that we need to rationalize, synthesize, and ultimately execute off of. And the computational power to do that and the software models for enabling us to do that have evolved rather rapidly to enable us to start wrapping our arms around this. But the challenge that we face is that the technologies on which we built our enterprises to get here are not the same kind of technologies or capabilities necessary to take advantage of language models that have billions of parameters and petabytes of data to sift through. So in order to address the modern data challenges, new technologies are necessary, particularly in the data management and data service component of the IT infrastructure. And that's really where we focus our attention, is how do we increase the velocity of data to compute in order to enable us to get through that data and understand what it can tell us much more rapidly. This is a critical component of artificial intelligence training. You've got to collect your data, clean your data, and then of course set your models loose on learning that data. Now, if you think about it, a kindergarten is 20 kids all receiving the same instruction at the same time. A large language model is several 100,000 kids all reading the same textbook at the same time, or worse, reading different textbooks at the same time. So the stress that puts on the data service infrastructure is monumental. The only way to really accomplish that is with massively parallelized data technologies that enable us to resource several 100,000 CPU cores trying to access data at the same time. Otherwise, it would be an extremely long period of time before we ever got any useful results out of the data sets that we have. So that's our focus, is how do we enable people to get the most out of their data in the shortest period of time.
Data to decision, and we really appreciate you being part of that ecosystem. Speaking of which, Erica at Alteryx. First of all, tell us, what is Alteryx? How does that fit into the ecosystem here? And then how are you able to implement that? Give us a state of state across these agencies.
It's very exciting to hear the work that these agencies are doing. I think you're noticing a theme here. What we focus on in Alteryx and how to help this work be done is by democratizing the data. At this point, everyone needs to build better data sources. Everyone needs to find better ways to access data to get this advanced work done. The world is evolving. And what we find is this, as the saying went, necessity is the mother of invention. Debatable these days. But when we really see valuable work coming, when we really see these amazing ideas being applied, they're often coming from the front lines. These are people who see the data every day, work with it, understand how it should be applied. So we fit into the ecosystem by allowing access to those frontline workers, finding safe ways to do these data queries, to get to the different sources of data, to allow creative thought to be done, and to build incredible advances in machine learning and AI.
Incredible, and we really do appreciate it. Bill, how about at Denodo? Give us a state of the state. Well, first of all, Denodo, what is it? How does it work? And then how are you able to help unlock this capability across these agencies?
Well, Carolyn touched on the concept of a data fabric, and Denodo has been a company around 15 years. We effectively invented the logical data fabric using data virtualization technology. So that allows customers to access their data without replicating the data back and forth from source to endpoint. And the significance to that, to government specifically, is, and as I like to say to our government customers, don't stand on your own air hose. Your problem is harder than everybody else's. The top three uses of supercomputing power are nuclear testing, weather forecasting, and the human genome, all of which are government applications. And so the challenges government has are of a scale and of a data type that is much larger than you see anywhere else in the economy. So in terms of state of the state, again, the next major challenge government has is they're the target of all 5 or 7 of the cloud providers, all of whom have a unique value proposition to offer government, all of whom are seeking to have government data. But then you get to the challenge of, well, how do we pull it all together? And I think probably one of the best examples I've seen of that is ironically, over at Air Force in Eileen's shop. You know, Bill Marin started talking about this about 4 years ago, and they had about 1,000 data centers around the world. Air Force came out about 1.5 years, 2 years ago with a strategy that said, we're going to take 1,000 data centers, put that data into the cloud, phase 1, phase 2. We're going to standardize on 7 different systems of record, things like Advana and Advanced Battle Management. And phase 3, we're going to move to a data fabric to tie it all together. We've got good relationships with the Air Force as a result of that need to tie together massive amounts of data at scale securely without replicating it.
Fantastic, and we really do appreciate that. Beth, I'm going to come up to you and ask, as you had mentioned, you're pulling data from a lot of different sources. You got a lot of paper data. Mm-hmm. You have to validate data from law enforcement, et cetera, to make those important decisions. Give us an example of a program you'd like to highlight where you all are ingesting this data, interpreting it, and making a great decision.
Sure. You really hone in on one of our challenges there, and that's turning some of our paper data into digital data. Mm-hmm. And we've really benefited from a variety of these technologies. You know, we're using robotic process automation for a variety of mission support tasks, including generating and sending daily reports, and even to accelerate data entry from physical forms into our digital systems. We use chatbots to internally to connect with our IT help desk, and externally for our applicants to get information about the status of their applications. And we're also using clustering and pattern recognition to try to paint a more person-centric view of the different actors in the immigration system. It's important to understand kind of the history of our systems in USCIS because we maintain these systems that are mostly transactional. So trying to understand the total history of an individual requires piecing all of those transactions together. And machine learning, again, specifically clustering and pattern recognition, are helping us to understand that path through the immigration system more clearly. So each system will capture its own person-centric data attributes, like social security number, alien number, all those biographic attributes when they're interacting with the agency. So we're trying to resolve the entity around those different individuals, be them applicants, lawyers, beneficiaries, petitioners on behalf of a beneficiary. So one of our programs, Person-Centric Identity Service, PCIS, is built to be the authoritative source of trusted biographical and biometric information to provide real-time and two-way visibility between services into an individual's comprehensive immigration history and status. And PCIS utilizes models to more accurately associate A numbers to an individual and to deduplicate those individual records from multiple systems to create a more complete picture of that person. So resolving multiple records around an individual entity, but then also extending that to understand the relationship of those individuals to other actors in the immigration system is really where we're spending a lot of time right now and harnessing the technologies of big data and AI.
Fascinating. You mentioned A number just for the audience so they know what that is as they're pulling this all together. A number is?
A number is alien number. So it's a unique identifier intended to help an individual track all of the different benefits that they might apply for in their history in the United States. Sometimes a number is easy to resolve on, but there are instances where an individual might get assigned multiple A numbers. So it's not always the easiest thing to resolve around.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate it. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about all things data, including AI, et cetera. I'm going to throw it up to you, Erica, to talk about a specific example that you'd like to highlight where Alteryx is making it happen for one of these agencies or multiple agencies.
Yes, gosh, there's so many amazing things happening, as you can hear from the panelists. It's funny, people think of AI, they think of machine learning, they think of big data, and immediately robots come to mind, right? Incredible, very futuristic applications. In reality, the projects that are making a big difference, of course, that's incredible. Of course, getting to that point, of course, some of the things you're hearing are just wow. We're seeing a lot of value, though, come through in simple machine learning and in simple automation. Things such as reviewing contracts, reviewing who's making purchases off government credit cards, and ensuring that, they're not overpaying according to the contract, going through and catching those dollars and cents, that tax revenue that we can recover and that we can make sure goes more towards mission work, doing things like building these data platforms and allowing all the great minds across various areas of an agency to have access to the data it needs in order to do the work it needs to fulfill the mission. Having human resources go through and retain those valued employees. It is so difficult in government these days. It's very difficult to compete with private industry. There's a lot of work that's going on that just requires the best and the brightest. And having machine learning in place to understand what is going to motivate people, to make them happy, to assist with their retention. These are all projects that you're not going to see on the front page of the newspaper, but they are critical to the success of many programs that we see.
Amen to that. And, Beth talked about a lot of different technologies up and down the stack and a lot of different use cases for that to sort of bring that decision to bear, which I think is super impressive. Eileen, how about highlighting one specific program that you'd like to shine the spotlight on in regards to the use of this technology and the use of this massive amount of data that you all are possessing?
I'd like to highlight our predictive maintenance community.
Nice.
Shouldn't surprise you that to get to AI, you have to have great volumes of data, of high quality data. So our predictive maintenance community focused on the KC-135 aerial refueling tanker capability. And we brought together a team of analysts at our MIT AI Accelerator at Lincoln Labs. And we worked with that community to really focus on how to use actionable data. But when we first started the journey, the team was limited to about 13 months of flight data recorder for the fleet. And so we worked with the Safety Center at Tinker Air Force Base to migrate more than a decade's worth of data, safety data, into our Vault data platform, a critical thread of our data fabric. And the team was able to decode it into usable time series sensor data. So basically, it's data that's accessible to the enterprise now. It's coming from the trustworthy source. It directly supports the mission. It's about available, accessible, and actionable data. And you can, so I really think that it's a great multidisciplinary effort, multiple teams coming together to really drive readiness.
And a fantastic use case and a very important one. So impressive that you can take 10 years of data and ingest it in there. It's remarkable to see that. Bill, how about at Denodo? Would you like to give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight?
Sure. One example would be the Army Logistics Data Analytics Center down in Huntsville, Alabama. They currently use Denodo as a semantic layer that allows them to access data from across multiple data sources. They've got SAP HANA. They're using Hadoop down there, as well as Oracle on a non-ERP transactional basis. And using Denodo, they're able to feed the data to their BI and reporting capabilities. And again, they've got everything from, SAP, Microsoft.NET. They've got Tableau, Click, as well as a lot of modeling and simulation tools, Python and some others. And so we're very proud of that, because what they've been able to do, we're very happy for them, being able to access their data 97% faster without having to replicate it. They've done this with the same number of staff, and they've saved over $4 million per year from the time that they put it in. The significance of this use case cannot be overstated. They say in the military that amateurs discuss strategy, professionals discuss logistics, and that's how you're going to sustain the force in the field. So, Eileen, I see you're chuckling, as am I. I'm an old. I ran a logistics company serving the DoD some years ago, but that's why I point to that one, because it shows how, using that data fabric that people are talking about, you can integrate multiple data sources without the replication of data, feeding all the usual the virtualization tools, as well as, and this is important for this discussion, all of the new AI applications that are coming out in AWS. So if your data is sitting over in Microsoft or in Google or in Oracle, you can test those AI applications in AWS without having to feed that data over there. This solves the problem of security, access, role-based access. So it's a useful example of how the data fabric can be used in a critical use case in the DoD.
Fascinating. We really do appreciate it. Caroline, you've been, I guess, the Chief Data Officer organization's been over there now for a year and change. You kind of bootstrap that thing up, and all of a sudden you have all this volume of requirements, data, et cetera. Give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight.
Sure, absolutely. And you're right. We may be still new to the CDO community. We are just under 2 years old here within DISA as a Chief Data Office, but we've been really making a lot of progress inside DISA and outside of DISA as far as our data maturity and where we're really influencing different data solutions to really meet our mission partner needs. I'd have to say a program that has really provided a lot of benefit is that our Defense Cyber Ops Division, they were able to partner with DARPA and the Cyber Hunting at Scale program, the CHASE program, and they were able to evaluate the effectiveness of different AI and ML models whenever it comes to our cyber threat hunting. That CHASE program, it has multiple distinct performers that tackle that defense cyber ops data at every different classification level and in very many different environments, some a little stagnant, some dynamic. And they're able to really dive in with different analytical techniques, different large language models, different AI and ML, analytic characteristics. So we've been the defensive cyber operations group, they've been really working with our cyber security service providers within DISA on using all those different analytical techniques so they can really dive into those higher fidelity alerts so that we can see what's really going on within the network. I think that program has really been able to take a lot of the manual work with off of our battle captains, off of our cyber threat analysts that are on our watch floor, and use that automation and that AI so that we're, like I said earlier, we're able to sift through the noise and really get to that data that may be a real-time threat to our infrastructure.
Getting to the needle and the stack of needles, we really do appreciate that fascinating use case, Nick. Pure Storage, certainly all across the various agencies. Give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight.
Well, thanks, Luke. This becomes due to the rapid adoption of our artificial intelligence ready infrastructure, starting to become something of a, wow, where do I start? In NASA, we've got large scale modeling, determination of flight parameters and characteristics for space missions, design and simulation of space vehicles, CDC, obviously epidemiological modeling, as well as, of course, virology. We're seeing at the National Cancer Institute the evaluation and analysis of sets of millions of slides of cancers for determining change detection and evolution and metastasis of cancer models to develop new treatments and a better understanding of various different types of cancer. It's everywhere. To touch on Eileen's part, early on, the Department of Defense was talking about life cycle sustainment and maintenance technologies. DLA was pursuing that, which obviously we heard as well. Everywhere all of these things are happening, we're involved. And of course, I think my flagship use case is still the Department of Navy with their artificial intelligence as a service capability. So they're basically the cloud service provider internally for the Department of Navy, making advanced artificial intelligence infrastructure and pipelines and software tools available across the entire fleet. So all of those things, we're fundamentally an infrastructure provider. We build the things that enable people to make the best possible tools and gain the most leverage over their data and get to results faster. So sometimes it's about as exciting as being, the Pirelli tires on a Formula One racer, but the car doesn't go without them. So we're pretty pleased to be at the foundational layers and in the service layers of all of these endeavors.
Didn't go unnoticed, a AI ready storage environment as well. So I really do appreciate
more
that.
than that. It's actually a partnered infrastructure with NVIDIA. So it is a complete turnkey solution for deploying and developing artificial intelligence infrastructure.
Fantastic. We're going to start talking about priorities. Eileen, I'm going to start with you. Give us a top couple of priorities that you're focusing on this year.
Number one, talent. Everybody's in a fierce competition for having the best workforce. So you have to take a multi-pronged approach. Intern programs, college pathway programs to bring people in to work impactful missions. But it's also about investing in the team that you have. And so whether it's short courses, long courses, online. Last year, our colleagues at the MIT AI Accelerator in Cambridge, Mass, actually piloted our national security focused AI course for executives, general officers, senior executives, our chiefs, our top enlisted. But it wasn't just Air Force Department, Air and Space. It was learning with our sister services and our coalition partners, having that diversity of thought. So tactical to strategic investment in the workforce. And I think the other one is advancing capabilities, bringing emerging tech into our environment today. And that's why when we look at our data fabric, our emerging tech platform, the Vault, working with the innovation community and cyber, small business, to bring in emerging tech now. I think that my team has really been foundational, working with the innovation community, bringing capabilities that had never been in the Department of the Air Force or even DoD in at the speed of mission. Our most recent cyber, we safely worked with our industrial base to onboard it in 25 days. That's, I think, a step in the right direction. Today's technology is down.
That is super impressive, 25 days. Bill, how about a Denodo? Top couple of priorities. What's the focus on right now based on what your customers are asking for?
We focus on three things. First, making sure that in the unique government environment, we've discussed the ability to access the data from the various clouds and various sources. Being able to do it to ensure that the individual accessing that data has the rights to see that data. That's one of the seminal differences for government, is making sure that Bill Sullivan has that appropriate clearance to see the data. And so that's we can do it. That's table stakes to make the data available. The tricky part is to ensure that only those that should have access to it do have access to it. I would say the second one we have is to ensure that our customers, and I touched on this earlier, are able to test new AI applications regardless where their data rests. So that, and we're talking about AI, it's advancing so quickly. AWS did a masterful job of sheltering or of hiding the compute behind computing, right? And so now you have, instead of having to hire $400 an hour Python programmers, you have people that are practitioners in everything from medicine to nuclear testing that are able to write applications for use. And so, but the ability of government to adapt these AI to test first and then to adapt these AI applications is inhibited if they can't use the data they have in other sources to test them. And so our ability to enable that government to move forward is one of the things I'm focusing on, because everybody wants the AI apps, but AI apps, it's axiomatic that AI apps work better, provide more granular answers when they're given more data. But ensuring A, that they have security, and B, that you even have access to it is critical. And then the third thing would be to ensure that we're working hard to build a network of partners that can support our government customers as they expand, both SI partners as well as we're doing work with a lot of our technical partners. We're talking to Alteryx, Splunk. Splunk does tremendous work on cyber, but they generate tremendous amount of I/O in terms of the data that comes in and out of Splunk. And government is waking up to that hangover of monthly and quarterly I/O charges from their cloud providers. So the ability to access the data without having to replicate it back and forth and everything from cyber to logistics is critical. And that's something else that, we're going to roll out a new application within Denodo that'll allow customers to see what is their cloud usage and, where are they really spending it? Is it being used on issues that are going to advance their business, or is just being used to, answer the mail? So those are the three.
Got it. And we really do appreciate that. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about all things data, including artificial intelligence. We're focusing on priorities. Beth, I know you have a lot of them. Let's talk about let's say the top two for this year in your domain.
Sure. Well, I know that it will be no surprise to my colleagues on the phone here that it's, CDO 101 to align your data strategy to that of the business or to the mission. So our directors' priorities are to promote efficiency in USCIS adjudication. So looking to the next few years, we really want to focus on creating more efficiency in our processes so that we can allow our adjudicators to optimize the use of their times on cases that require more human attention. So to do this, I'm really focused on gaining better access to data from other agencies. Largely, our adjudicators have great access to what we have internally to USCIS, but we are reliant upon data from components within the Department of Homeland Security and in other departments like State, Health and Human Services, and Justice. So it's not as much about AI as it is about big data, and I'm talking huge. I would love to be able to gain better access. We have access to it, but I want better enhanced access to data from our other federal partners so that it's more automated, more seamless. We can access it where it is and not have to replicate it in our own environment. But I'm also focused on finding the right balance of risk and reward when it comes to implementing AI more widely. For USCIS, there's a lot of risk involved when figuring out where to take the human out of decision making. But there's also a lot of risk to our applicants if we're not able to render a decision on time on their benefit application. So we need to continue to build upon the successes that we have seen in the mission support space to get folks more comfortable with these technologies and these models to help speed up our decision making.
A delicate balance there, and we really do appreciate the focus on both of those. Erica, how about at Alteryx? Top priority for you this year?
Certainly. It's interesting. I'm going to date myself a bit, but in my lifetime, the computer was accessible only to a few, and then it became very mainstream. The internet, accessible only to a few, and then it became very mainstream. And now we're at the era where big data, AI, and machine learning are in the same place. So our priorities this year are what we call the 4 E's. We really want to make this as easy as possible for government, for corporations, for businesses to leverage the power of data. We want to make it available to everyone. People need it, but they don't necessarily go to school to be a data scientist. So they need to understand the fundamentals. They need some upskilling. They need to know how they can use this without having to learn a new programming language. So easy for everyone, everywhere. Cloud has been mentioned on this session. A lot of emphasis on making sure that regardless of where your data is sitting, we find a way to bring it together, to allow for that access, to allow for that commingling as needed and as appropriate. And the final one is every place, right? So everyone, everywhere, every place, easy. We really just want to, again, democratization is our main mission. And that has quite a lot to do right now with education and upskilling and just getting people used to the idea of incorporating this in now as a mainstream technology.
Fantastic. And we really appreciate the laser focus on the E's. Caroline. How about Adisa? Top priorities for you?
It sounds like across the board, the majority of us panelists and industry alike have the same, priorities, which is fantastic. It gets us all kind of on the same playing field. In no particular order for DISA, one of the main focuses is definitely our workforce as well. The DISA director just published a DISA Workforce 2025 initiative, which there's a variety of different lines of efforts that we're really honing in on our workforce and where we're investing on that recruitment, retaining, and evolving the workforce based on the evolving technologies that we have currently within our industry, partnering with different schools, partnering with our Skill Bridge program we have within the DoD so that we're bringing the best and the brightest into DISA so we can excel where we are. Another would be the hybrid and multi-cloud data solutions. The DoD, we really need to start focusing on building that flexibility and that scalability of architecture that can really, that can seamlessly integrate on-prem and cloud-based solutions. So no matter where that data lies, we have the appropriate access and we have the appropriate level of sharing so that we can do it within DISA and externally to our mission partners. That multi-cloud strategy will become more common so that we can avoid certain lock-ins that we have whenever it comes to that data sharing. It's very restrictive depending on which vendor and things like that. But I think that we're really starting to exploit the data needs, and that multi-cloud and different infrastructure solution will definitely help with that. And we have our joint warfighter cloud contract capability that is helping to push that to the Department of Defense. Real-time and edge computing. That's something that's becoming more and more relevant. The need for that real-time insights that will drive the adoption of edge computing and processing. Integrating AI models into that edge computing will really help to reduce latency. It'll enable quicker decision making, whether through automation or through a manual process. But that edge computing will become more and more relevant depending on where that data sets. And then, of course, AI-powered automation. Automation is something that we're very focused on, pulling back that need for manual decision making and allowing those tools that we're investing in to take actions, or at least alert different levels within the agency to say, hey, take a look at this. What do we need to do here? And this includes things like our security protection, system administration, customer support, and also the financial and business analytics. Enabling automation will allow the DISA workforce to focus on more priorities that need that human focus, and allow the IT solutions to do their jobs.
Love the crystallization of those priorities, and we really do appreciate it. Nick, top priority for Pure Storage this year?
Well, thanks, Luke. So the top priorities for this year for us are really getting our arms around operational efficiency with large language models, supporting model parallelism and data parallelism, cost efficiency for implementing and adopting artificial intelligence capabilities, and the ease of scaling AI. So our focus is primarily on process improvement, efficiency, scaling, cost control, to enable all of the things that all of these chief data officers are trying to deliver for their services and for their agencies. Just trying to make everything that we want to do possible and tangible today, but as well as sustainable for the future.
Fantastic, and we really do appreciate that. We're going to have to wrap it up, and we always like to end with a question about fast forward 2 to 3 years from now. What does it look like? Bill, we're going to start with you at Denodo. What's the environment look like 2 to 3 years from now, from your perspective?
I think that you will see a much more seamless integration of the clouds. I think that the adoption of AI will accelerate as a result of that integration. I believe that the issue of cyber will continue to be forefront in everybody's mind, but I will expect to see replication of solutions by project area. So in other words, logistics, targeting, and I suspect we'll see a lot of cooperation between the services on those issues.
Well, we certainly look forward to that. Erica, how about at Alteryx? What's it look like 2 to 3 years from now, from your perspective?
2 to 3 years from now, hard to say. I remember a college professor once saying, you all are in school now training for jobs that do not exist. And I think we're at that era again in terms of technology. But with that said, when you speak of AI, you speak of machine learning, and the distinction is if you have, for example, one of the new cars that has a lot of safety features in it, it might give you an alert saying, hey, you're about to hit another car. That is machine learning. That is saying, oh, based on the patterns of the past, how you're driving, we think this is what is going to happen next. AI is when your car impersonates a human and hits the brakes. Right now, we are in an era where machine learning is very prevalent. The AI piece is not quite as prevalent. People aren't trusting of it quite yet. We still have a lot of change management to do. I think in 2 to 3 years, the AI piece is going to be much more popular, much more prevalent, and we're all going to be working more towards that.
Good analogy referencing the car model. Really do appreciate that, Nick. Such a tectonic shift in the technology that you all are introducing. 2 to 3 years from now, what's going to be coming out of the Petri dish into the mainstream?
That is probably the billion-dollar question, Luke. When we're talking about, as I said before, cost efficiency and operational efficiency, purpose-built and standardized hardware and software, because this provides assured performance and consistency. But the other thing that we're working on, and we've talked about it, is really a quintupling of storage density and efficiency to accommodate those multi-petabyte scale data sets. We're probably looking at the ability to deliver a 100 petabyte data service platform that'll fit in roughly a rack's worth of compute within the next 3 years. So you're talking about scaling data performance and data capacity at doubling every year for the next 3 years. What that delivers is a tremendous capability for ingesting and training against new data sets, but also literally reducing hundreds of thousands of acres of data center floor space, whether that's on premises or in public cloud providers. We're looking at a sea change across the compute space where, the network has heretofore really been the primary driver. Can we get the bandwidth necessary to move data? Now it's really about servicing the data. Can we store it? Can we access it? Can we protect it? Can we manipulate it, maneuver it, collect it from the edge, deliver it back to the edge, and do all of that autonomously? These types of capabilities, in the quantities we're talking about, really defy the ability of humans to direct and manage those processes at the operational layer. So interestingly, it's going to be AI on AI driving AI operations, which, is the history of technology. Once upon a time, 2 operators would sit and digitally communicate with each other over electronic wires. And that's great as long as you only need to send one data stream. That was Morse code. So 1830s, 1840s. Today, all of the switching and routing is handled by computer. What's going to happen in the future? Everything's going to be handled. All the infrastructure and low-level operational capability and activities are probably going to be done by intelligent algorithms that can readily adapt to changes in network and data dynamics, as well as Bill was saying, threats and anomalous operations in the network and addressing and remediating those. And that lets us get back to doing what human beings do best, which is focus on the decision-making, focus on affecting the outcome, focus on shaping the activities of our operations and our agencies. So pretty exciting
Amen
times.
to that. And no longer is it going to be machine talking to machine. It's going to be machine instructing machine. So Caroline, how about at DISA? You're going to be out of the terrible twos. You'll be 5 years old at that point, as far as the CDO organization is concerned.
Yeah.
What do you expect? What type of environment do you expect to be in at that point?
Well, I believe that it's, going to just continue to grow and become more dynamic and maybe get easier, maybe not, probably not. But either way, we're here for it. I love what Nick was just saying whenever it comes to machine on machine. And really, that's kind of a focal point that we're getting to. Natural language processing improvements is, really on our radar, and where we're wanting to be in the next few years. That NLP technology will likely continue to advance, of course, which is leading to that better human to computer interaction. But we're really hoping to, drive that to that computer to computer interaction, which will be more accurate, which would lead to accurate language understanding and improved language generation capabilities. So does go to that, let the humans, let the personnel really focus on those roles of designing and managing and decision-making when it comes to those systems, and letting the NLP and different AI-powered automation drive some of those low-hanging needs for the infrastructure. Another is, data privacy solutions is with, the increasing concerns of data privacy. We see things happening in real world events, and data privacy and infrastructure, security is definitely a huge focus and area where we would like to continue to see evolve. And we're really interested in the innovation around that secure data sharing, where we're really securing the data itself, not only the infrastructure that the data rides on. So that's why we're looking at, the Thunderdome and Zero Trust activities from within justice, so that we are really looking at securing that data as close to the source, and while it's en route, not just the highways or the routes that they take within the infrastructure. So, securing the data, federated learning and federated searches across different infrastructures is where we're looking to go. So no matter where that data lies, on-prem, cloud, a variety, outside of our boundary, we're able to have that federated search, so that we are doing that learning together and doing that storytelling, so that they can make the decisions in the boardroom needed to really enable the safety of this nation. And also looking at those different privacy techniques to protect more sensitive information while still enabling that exploitation of the data. It's a very fine line of, hey, I want to share everything with everyone, but I very much need to keep it as secure as possible. And within the DoD, we're really teeter-tottering on that, but I think that we're looking into the tools needed to enable that, so that we can really democratize the data where it's needed.
We really do appreciate that and look forward to that. Beth, 2 to 3 years from now, you're on the cusp right now of you're implementing a lot of technology. You're on the cusp of full automation. If I'm a freshly minted adjudicator and I'm sitting down, what's that going to look like? Am I just going to hit a button and out pops an adjudication, or what can we expect to see 2 to 3 years from now?
I think an adjudicator's job will still be there, but it will be greatly assisted by these technologies. Like I mentioned, in 2 to 3 years, I really hope that we have these cloud-to-cloud data sharing technologies in place with all of our immigration partners. I hope that we're able to start using AI and generative AI and machine learning more prevalently, because we have strong governance in place. There's a lot of concern around implementing it, but to ease those concerns, governance is the answer, both within the AI space and governing the appropriate use cases for it, and in data governance. You can't have generative AI, or you can't have AI without strong data governance and strong trust in your data. I have a vision for great, well-trusted guardrails in that space. And to really bring that to fruition, I do see staffers starting to get comfortable using large language models for low-risk use cases like knowledge management. We're a big Teams organization, and there's such a wealth of knowledge in Teams and on SharePoint and on our intranet. And it's with 20,000 employees, it's hard to know where to go to look to find things. but using LLMs for things like knowledge management and finding materials where you don't know where to go is a really great way to dip your toes into the water.
We really do appreciate that and look forward to that. Eileen, you're going to take us home. If I'm a freshly minted lieutenant coming out of the academy, I'm assigned to Space Force, to the CDO's office. What's that environment going to look like 2 to 3 years from now?
Well, I think across our department, data and AI are going to be part of every airman and every guardian's core DNA. It's going to be how they operate every day. It's going to be part of the solution. We're not going to think about it. It's the solution. It's going to enhance our warfighting capabilities because we're going to be leveraging the full power of data and AI for information advantage and mission success. It's AI competitive 2027.
AI competitive 2027. We really do appreciate that and look forward to that. And I want to thank each of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for this program. And I'd like to thank the sponsors for supporting us on the show. I'd also like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.